Reports of a new Ford Mustang in the UK should be greeted with about as much enthusiasm as news of a new Super Bowl winner. You see, it's an American thing with little resonance over here, but times are about to change. The new Mustang isn't just coming to Europe, it's coming to the UK and in right-hand drive. This is a very simple car, but the ingredients are damn good. This GT model uses a 5-litre V8 to push 426 horsepower and 390 foot-pounds of torque to the rear wheels through, get this, an independent rear axle. 19-inch wheels are standard, as are 380mm steel brakes. Prices for the V8 begin at a tickle under 33 grand, and this car was just over 35 as tested.
There is no more American a car than the Ford Mustang. It has been a colossal success. It's become an icon on the other side of the Atlantic because it so perfectly represents what works as an American sports car. It's affordable, it's simple, it's great to look at, it's not overcomplicated, and it has a personality that you can just attach yourself to within minutes of getting in the car. It's never really worked in Europe though. Why is that? Well, partly because it's not been available for a long time, and partly because I suspect we Europeans overcomplicate what we want from a car. That simple formula just hasn't worked in anything other than very cheap cars for a long time. Well, the Mustang is now over here in Europe, we're in one, on a slightly greasy, very small, narrow A road in Wales. This car has independent rear suspension. That's not a first because it happened about 10 years ago in a special Mustang. But in the regular series car, this is a GT 5-litre, you now get an independent rear end. So, could you really buy a new Mustang in the UK instead of something else that was about 36 grand? Let us find out. So has applying an independent rear axle to the Mustang suddenly turns it into this hyper-modern M3 rivaling sports coupe? No, it hasn't. But that's no great surprise, is it? It's still a simple beast. This car still lacks a level of sophistication on a British road because it doesn't really like the bumps very much. But whereas it used to kind of skip at the rear and have nothing to do with what was going on at the front of the car, they now vaguely talk to each other. The Mustang still feels colossal on British roads. The steering still feels quite detached. It still feels like an object that's slightly out of its own context. But you know what? That's what makes it feel so special. I've been in this for a couple of days now, and every time I get in it, I just feel special. People look at it and smile. It is the most beautiful detail styling exercise, isn't it? Look at the outside. Every single corner, every single angle, every little nuance, you can tell a team of people have just agonized over how to make it as cool as possible. And I love that. Inside, it's not quite so spectacular, but it's still a cracking cabin compared to the last car and the one before that. Wow, they're a bit clunky inside, but this is, do you know what? 35 grand of your European money, I reckon you'd be happy with this interior. The engines, well, there's a kind of 4-cylinder EcoBoost thing that they're talking about in America, but really you and I have no interest in that because you're buying into the American thing, therefore you need a V8. 5 litres in this one, 420 horsepower, feels stronger to me. Normal Mustangs have always felt, to me, like they didn't produce the power that was claimed. This car feels every bit as strong and as powerful as that power claim. And being a V8, it's just got that noise. It's fabby, you never tire of it. This one revs up. The old 4-cam Ford V8 wouldn't rev at all, but this one still wants to go to about 6. The last 500 RPM are a little bit useless. It's got traction. Gearbox is a delight. The clutch action is really pleasant, although the bite point's a bit too high. I can't quite heel and toe because the brake and throttle aren't really relating to each other, but I'm getting around it. It's not an accurate thing on the road. That's the main problem, because physically it feels big. A lot of European manufacturers have got around that size by having clever solutions like four-wheel steering and steering racks that really allow you to pick your point. This one isn't quite there, I have to say. And on these spring and damper rates, it is getting deflected a little bit, but you can still hustle it along at a fair old pace. It's at its happiest on the bigger, flowing sections of road, but it still kind of holds it together on the more technical little stuff. And as I've said, it carries with it this permanent sense of joy. It's just a happy car. We don't celebrate that enough, do we? And it's so utterly intangible and stupidly subjective, but some cars are just happy cars, and the Mustang is a happy car. So to go back into 1950s autocar speak, this car's road manners are really rather good. It's not as sophisticated or as clever as the best Yooorapeans, but it's not shamed at all. It's not uncomfortable, quite firm in terms of ride, and it does feel like it can get deflected even though it's got that independent rear end. What happens if you turn all the bits and bobs off and try and drive it in a totally irresponsible, irrelevant manner? Allow us a few minutes to find out. Well, on a circuit, the Mustang is full of surprises, because this big old boat can kind of hitch its chinos up and be quite agile. So, same old story, we haven't got that much time, and this isn't a track car, but let's see what it's like. We will do a straight lap, and then we'll do a slightly more drifty lap. First off, it's got a lot of roll in it. I'm not playing too much with the settings. I'm on Sport Plus, which is fine. I think there's a track mode. I'll try that for you now. Hold on, what do we go? There we go, track. I'm in track now. A lot more throttle response. Gear shift is really good. It stops. Yes, it feels big, but it doesn't feel not agile. The tyres feel perfectly up to this sort of thing. And I have to say, it's really enjoyable. What I like about it is that there's enough grunt to be able to trim your line. So if you just come in a bit too quick, you can back off the throttle, a bit more brake, and then you can kind of just blend it in on the exit. And whereas old Mustangs I've driven have always felt like every single suspension component had about 9 chunks of rubber surrounding it between you and the workings of that suspension. Yes, this car still feels rubberized, but to nothing like the same extent. Nothing like. Engine, magnificent really. I mean, for what is the base V8 Mustang, it's absolutely fantastic. What happens if we turn stuff off? Well, you've got a big, drifty, friendly. Oh, it's lovely. You know what? It's lovely. It's super balanced. You can bring the rear around like that in higher speeds. The steering's intuitive. Oh, it's a big hug of a drift car. It's all friendly and let me do it and help you and... Oh, yes please, yes please. Oh, Ford, you really have done a super fine job here. A great job. For 35 grand? Oh, yes. Want to have me some Mustang. What a surprise. You can drive it kind of straight, you can drive it kind of drifty, you can enjoy it on the road. This thing has a depth to it. I think in some respects, they've taken quite a sophisticated car and had to engineer in a bit of simplicity to make it feel like a Mustang, because underneath, this ticks a lot of boxes. I mean, a fully spec'd M3 is twice as much money as this car. It's not twice the car. Yeah, I like it now.
I think you can probably tell that I like this machine. It's dripping with personality, the dynamics are good enough, the noise is ace. In a world of dreary, grey, Yooorapean, small exec diesel coupe things, it's a massive flip of the bird. Well done, Ford.